Yo, YouTube, what's up? Welcome back to a very random video. The next Valorant meta. What are we in for? There have been lots of changes. There's been lots of things that have happened recently. For example, Nongshim are your Masters Santiago champions. Here they are, all the boys smiling very happily. And it was a banger event. Some people obviously aren't too happy about the dominant defeat that PaperX faced in that final, but hey, it happens. This video, however, I kind of want to raise a little bit more discussion around the next meta, particularly tapping into a thing and a factor that I don't think many people, teams, analysts, anything are discussing. Now, I want everyone to take a quick look at this picture, okay? What do we see? What are we looking at? Well, there's two things. Well, there's mainly just one thing, and it is the double duelist. Of course, Yoru Neon, Yoru Raze. Super interesting. Everyone after Masters, oh my days, double duelist, let's go. Super hype, super exciting to watch. The clock's ticking, okay? The clock is ticking, and it ain't gonna tick for long. The Yoru nerfs happened. Flashes down to 1, TP duration massively decreased. Basically, Yoru's in the ground. Any teams that picked up a specialty Yoru player that can only play Yoru and only one-tricks Yoru, have fun tackling this. And what's this? We nerf Yoru, and now we've buffed Skye. Skye now has a 60-second flash recharge, basically, and that's really cool. Sparks a new discussion, more debate around, oh my days, Skye's back. We've got NRG Ethan tweeting a smiley face, because Skye, pretty irrelevant for the most of the meta. You know, flash initiators in general were pretty non-existent. You might see an occasional Skye on a bind, but for the most part, Fade, Sova, Yoru is our flasher. Perfect. But now that Yoru got nerfed, everyone is now running to Skye. And, you know, it's just pretty simple. You run single initiator, double dive with a Waylay and Neon. Everyone's looking at Danby going, damn, he's the future. You know, fair enough. I love Danby to bits. But a lot of teams are thinking way too quickly, in my opinion. And, well, the meta's more open than I think. This, in theory, will be your main three attack, let's say. You've got the double dive, you've got the Skye, Dog, 3 flashes, or 2 flashes, sorry. Super cool, super interesting. We're in for another double dive meta. But then you've also got the Harbor buffs and the Skye buffs. And you've got some people on the internet thinking, oh, okay, we'll rock a double controller and a Skye. Maybe we'll just play solo Waylay, do almost what NRG did. You know, we've got Marder on the Waylay just going in by himself. This might suit some teams. But that kind of got me thinking, well, what if we really start to cook it? I'm the kind of, I was the kind of in-game leader, coach. Even now, you tell me what the meta is. Okay, cool. How do we counter that? Because all the flock of sheep are going this way with the double dive. Now let me get in the kitchen. Let me get cooking. And what have we come to? This guy. I am a Vito believer, okay? But without any bias towards this character, because I did solo queue him for an X straight when he first released. Well, let's look at Sage. Let's look at Deadlock. Let's look at all of these Sentinels that are dead, but I just feel like teams aren't proactively thinking about what these 3 Sentinels have in common. And that's stall, that's delay, that's nuisances, that is abilities that can almost counter anything that you want to do and can really make you struggle in adapting and evolving, both on the T side and the CT side. Mainly the CT side, though. So let's look at these very bog standard setups that I have randomly cooked up in 5 minutes, so nobody critique them too much. But for example, we've got Lotus back in the map pool. Okay, well, what is Vito really good at? Well, Vito destroys the flashes. Vito destroys the dogs. Well, Vito destroys a saturate. Vito does so much that I almost feel like we've not truly seen. There are a couple teams that we'll talk about in a second that I'd say, experimented with him, and to be honest, it looked pretty good. And I know there's some analysts out there, some co-streamers that might be of the opinion that, you look at one veto VOD and everything's fixed, everything's solved. But I just don't think it's that easy. In theory, it is that easy. But I don't think it's going to be as easy as what you might think. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I'm a genius here. I'm just saying that this excites me. This really makes me look forward to the next iteration of this double dive meta that we're going into, where, for example, Vito can now fight Lotus over towards C Long by himself and not really get pushed off, because he pops his interceptor, he posts up on the angle, TP's available for if he needs to retreat, Astra one way to support, potentially an Omen one way. Okay, well, what do we do here? Well, the Saturate gets destroyed, the flashes, well, you can't push through the one way. Sure, you can counter one way, but now you've only got one smoke. So I think the conditioning that you can do with Vito will really shake some teams up. And I almost feel like this double dive duelist meta, whatever you want to call it, I'm on the other side of the spectrum where it's not my favorite meta of all time. I can appreciate it, I can respect it, but I prefer something like this on the left, something that's a lot more spicy, where you want to go for this all-in kind of style of composition. Cool. I'm going to play a character that gets rid of every bit of your util, and that is the Interceptor. And I'm fully aware that there'll be some people that go, are you really going to build your whole team identity off of this one character or this one style of play? And I think, well, yeah, sure. Because if this completely destroys the opposition's style of play, and we'll talk about what makes the all-in compositions so popular and so exposable in a sense, but for me, this is super exciting. We've got Interceptor, shut down C long, right? Okay, they can't go C anymore because the Interceptor's up. Correct. You can stall out and you can bait out the Interceptor, but all-in compositions lack util. They lack the ability of picking and choosing where they want to go and how. In my opinion, it's very calculated and very loosely planned, in a sense where you have to be outside of sight at a certain point. In terms of lurks and all these things, it's not very popular. It's kind of, we group together as 5 and we hit that site and we have good post-plant protocols and we stick to it. Vito can set up over towards A. He can put his Interceptor over towards A, destroys any bit of util. And bear in mind, this is all rechargeable util. Because with the double dive compositions, you want to use as little as util as possible in theory. You know, rechargeables are fair and they're fine. But if you use an extremely costly piece of util on your attack to just default on mid-round, well, that's now no longer part of the execute, and that's the whole point of our composition. This is really strong. This excites me, and there are some really strong interceptors that you can place around the map. This is split, for those of you that might not know, above garage, near enough unbreakable. If you want to break it, cool, we can trap off of it. You've got an interceptor that you can pop up here that teams can't really break without putting themselves in a risky position. You know, you'd have to involve a waylay, refract and those kind of abilities, but it's risky, it's costly. And with these double duelists, they don't have to worry about sentinels. They don't have to worry about the fact that, oh, we've got to go do this to then play our game. We don't have to worry. In a previous meta, for example, people had to always focus on Cypher Trips. You had to default against the Cypher Trips, break them, break the cam, and now you can play how you want to play. They nerfed Cypher into the ground. Nobody plays Cypher anymore. So there's no variable or factor that you as an IGL or a team have to consider before hitting a site or doing what you want to play. Vito, Sage, Deadlock, now all of a sudden you've got to play against them. You have to play into these characters and destroy the pieces of util that can critically almost exploit your whole half. And for me, I would gamble that. I would try this in practice. I would experiment with it. I would get strat books getting built, because this is something that, for me, I would love to see. I would love for a team to take this risk, because it's pretty bog standard. Instead of a Cypher, like this split comp, for example, was a very standard composition. You might just not have the Vito or a Cypher, but this is all pretty bog standard. We can play something along this style. Now, how do they counter the meta in theory? Well, like I said before, exec comps rely on all insight hits and executes, okay? Teams like Nongshim were heavily rewarded for having strong all insight executes, forcing teams to either fight in the main extremities, so we need to fight early A main, otherwise we have to play retake or we cannot hold this site, and it's a nightmare. It forces the defense to have to fight close. It's an uncomfortable thing that you have to practice and prepare for, or you play a retake. How are you going to retake? Nongshim were incredible at this, and Paper X, sort of NRG, was some of the only teams that really kind of caught onto this. Initiating nerfs and double dive requires teams to use minimal util early mid-round and save it for all-in executes. Veto, Sage, and even Deadlock allow for changes in style and pace, requiring teams to use more utility when clearing interceptor walls and stuns. Everyone's going crazy about Neon. Everyone's going crazy about Waylay. Well, here's 3 characters that completely kind of force your opposition to adapt to the characters you're playing. My only concern for this kind of style and comp is, does the execution work? In theory, it excites me and it tickles my taste buds. But how does it play in game? Because I do think you would need a lot of prep, and I think you'd need to really kind of start to build your new identity in a way. And I do think that this is a hard thing that I'm kind of declaring. If you want to play these characters, well, nobody really plays Veto. People haven't played Sage in years. And Deadlock, well, that character's dead and in the ground anyway. Nobody plays that anyway, other than maybe last year with Primi. So it is going to take a lot of hard work, but I like my odds. I would rather play this, which in theory counters a lot of the double dive that most teams are probably going to try and do. I would rather play that. Now, we saw 100 Thieves in Global experiment with the Veto. Cryo was on Veto. They played a little bit of Sage. Of course, Udo was playing Veto, and it looked really nice. You know, there were a couple things that maybe needed to be tweaked and polished, but now that we're going into stage 1 with a lot more prep time and a lot more gaps between games, I'm all for this. I would love to see Global or 100 Thieves really just go against the grain and try a Veto, Sage, Deadlock, something that is completely far left to what teams are going for already. Now, interceptors, for example, this one, you've really got to come out over in towards A main in order to break this. Now, in theory, you'll have a Viper wall as well that's on your side, but you could double up here. You could play double up here, maybe have someone play over towards Heaven, and as soon as you want to break this interceptor, well, you're dead, you're punished. If you're going to site exec over towards A, and don't get me wrong, like, you know, this is very simple stuff, I'm so much more aware, but like, even if you want to go for a standard site A execute with your Waylay, okay, that's fine. You've got interceptor. Well, that's the Skydog broken. That's the Sky Flash broken. That's the Waylay saturate broken. If somebody wants to play over towards like Plant Pot, for example, fighting over towards A on Lotus, you know, you could have interceptors like this where, okay, you're going to throw all your util at me. Cool, go for it. My guy can get rid of all of it. It's timings. I was having a conversation with a friend that I brought this point up to, and, you know, he rightfully said, yeah, but, well, the interceptor can be baited. And of course, but I think with these teams that have been playing Cypher for God knows how long, there's transferable skills and there's transferable characteristics that, as a Cypher player, if you're playing on a site to anchor, you're going to get used to feeling out the tingles in your bones, or whatever you want to call it, where you're ready for a site execute and you're getting ready to spam your cages and get ready to play off your trips. These are skills and traits that players have been conditioned and been practicing for years. Now you've just got to learn it on a new agent. But a new agent that can do this, as well as TP out of danger, he's got a trip. Veto offers so much in his kit. I think this is similar to Vyse, where Vyse came out at the start of the game. Not many teams really wanted to try her. Not many teams really wanted to play her. Then she got a little bit of a buff, and then they started to play her. If I'm at a team, I'm trying at least 1, 2, 3 maps with Veto, because I genuinely feel like he's going to exploit some of the biggest weaknesses in the double duelist comps. Same again here. This doesn't even have to be for Veto. Like, he could have his interceptor over towards A, play over towards C with a TP. You could have your Whaley player for this kind of stuff. You could double up, but you pop a one-way here, interceptor up, well, you've completely shut down C main, and now let's say you shut down this and it's the round after. Your opposition's conditioned that they're going to intercept over towards C. Okay, we put it on site now, and we play more reserved. We play more further back. The style that you can play with this character really excites me. Now, I've not even touched on Deadlock and Sage, but there's similar characteristics and similar habits that are still going to be a nightmare for your opposition to deal with. You know, the Deadlock wall, you've got Deadlock stuns. If you're going to play Neon Waylay, which most teams apparently seem to be doing, oh, okay, how are we going to deal with that? All that oppression, you know? The wall, it can really throw off timings. You know, we default over towards A main a little bit, and then we group and hit over towards B on Corrode. Okay, what if I put my Deadlock wall over towards A within the last 30, 40 seconds of the round? Well, now we've got to break the wall panic and the rotations start to come in. It's very loose theory, I'm aware. You're more than welcome to critique me, but this was like this was an idea I had about an hour ago, you know, and I just had to put my thoughts down, make a quick little video. And don't get me wrong, if there's people in the comments that kind of want to almost get me to dig a little bit deeper and almost explain how I would play Lotus CTT side, I'm more than happy to. Fracture's back in the map pool, by the way, everyone. A very shit interceptor, if I'm honest, but you could put one for sight, you could put one for top Jenny, and it just, there's abilities like the Rainer Flash, okay, that seem really weak in theory, but when you have to drag your crosshair to break that flash, it's a skill and it's a mechanic that we don't have to practice that often. And it's the same with the interceptor. You play above the interceptor, or you play below it, sorry, and all of a sudden you either break the interceptor or you die, or you've got to kill one of them, you know? So it's gambling time, VCT teams, you know, even tier 2 teams, tier 3 teams. What style do you want to play? Do you want to go for the double dive, play it safe, play like every other team? Or are you going to be the black sheep of the family? Are you going to go against everyone and everything? Me personally, I'm the black sheep. I'm a gambling man. I'm going to take the gamble and I'm going to try it in a practice, in an official, do whatever you think works, and just see how it plays, see how it works. I wouldn't be surprised if some teams prefer the double duelist, but they might want to experiment with the veto, maybe for like a week 3, week 4 team. For example, let's say I'm an Evil Geniuses, okay? And I'm playing against an MIBR, a G2, a Sentinels, whatever team, okay? And in theory, it's going to be hard for me to beat that team just off of micro and macro alone. Let me pull out this comp. Let me pull out a veto. Let me see how you deal with it. Because one of the biggest complaints against NRG throughout Santiago was that they struggle to adapt. If you throw a new composition at them, they're a very coach and prep heavy team. Therefore, you're going to burn 1 or 2 of Bonkar's timeouts just talking about how to play against your comp. Well, if that's the case, let me pull a veto out. Because I don't think many teams will have any reps against veto, unless they're playing it right now, of course. But anyway, that's the end of my little TED talk. It's a very random, very rushed video, but I wanted to get my thoughts out as quickly as possible because this is cool, man. You know, if we can really see some teams experiment with the veto, the Sage, the Deadlock, get cooking, teams, because the flexibility and the creativity that you can have on a map, on a round, hey, I think it's cool, you know? So we'll see. We'll see what teams do. I think most teams are just going to go to this either double dive Sky or double controller Sky. Probably this one out of most because it seems like the most attractive right now. But do it. Get cooking, you know? This is where I think we see coaches get tested as well, you know? Are you going to go in favor of everyone else and just play simple standard stuff that you're very micro heavy? Or are you going to get creative, you know? I think it's going to be an exciting meta. I hope teams take chances, and I hope teams start gambling. You know, Valorant allowed gambling sponsors. Time to gamble in the game. But yeah, that's going to be it for this video. Let me know your thoughts and feelings on my potential meta prediction. Let's see.